So you want to set up an Ark server. Well, I'll show you how I set up my Ark server, and I did run into a few issues yesterday. It's been a while since I set one up, so I'll talk a little bit about how I set one up. It's pretty straightforward, but there can be a couple complications. So the first thing you're going to need to do is get Steam CMD. I put all my files just on the desktop. Looks like this when you load it up, just like command prompt. You can type in Steam CMD on Google, and then if you go to this right here, Daniel Gibbs, he gives you a direct link to the zip file. You can just go and then it downloads. You need WinRAR, which is a separate program in order to open these files, and then you can extract this or just run it. So once you have Steam CMD up, you're going to need to type in a few things. There's a couple guides online, and there is some wrong information. You're going to log in first, and you can log in with your username and password. If I type my username in, then I'm going to have to type my password in, or you can do it. There we go. I tried. Someone must have a wrongly spelled name, anonymous. That's hilarious. So you're logged in, and then you want to dictate what directory you're going to install these Ark server files in. I went into my local disk C and I created a new folder and I called it Ark server. So then I would come over here and I would say C:\Ark server, like that. Press enter. So then the last thing you need to type in is app update, and this number is not the one that worked for me. You want to type in 246110. Oops. Validate. So if I hit enter, then it's going to start installing, which can take a while. And if you get any kind of error, that could mean that you don't have enough space. I believe you need on top of your normal Ark game, you need another 100 gigs for all the server files, and it can take hours to install all that. Okay, so you got all your stuff installed. You can exit out of this once everything's installed. This is where I have my server files in here. So you need to make sure you have DirectX installed and all your stuff, Redis packs. So then from there you want to navigate to Ark server, shooter game, Ark server shooter game, binaries, Windows 64. This is like the main folder for the server files. So inside here I'm going to create a batch script to start up Ark, where I can dictate like the name of the server and all that. So you right click, new, rich text document, call it start server or whatever. I guess it doesn't matter. Where did it go? Right here. Well, I don't think I want it to do that. Delete. Let's try that again. Let's just go with the text document. It doesn't matter what you call it, but you will need to save it properly later. So I got just Notepad basically open. I'm inside this thing. Copy and paste all of this. Game server setup. This is the name of your server. This is, you can change it. Could call it Cool Server. Spell it all fucked like that. Sure. This is your query port. You can change that if you want it to be on a different port. Although this one works for me. This is where you change your server password, admin password. So you're going to have two ports that you're going to do port forwarding on. This is one of them. The other one's this one. So when I save this, once I got all this in there, save as start server.bat. That's the file extension you want. It's going to save it. It's going to look like that. So if you did that correctly and you did the correct port forwarding, I'll talk about port forwarding in a second. When you double click it, it should look like this. And it can take a few minutes for it to start up your server. It's not going to be instantaneous. So we'll talk about port forwarding, and then I'll tell you how to start making alterations on your server if you want to change resource gathering. There's a couple ways to do that. Let's talk about port forwarding. So if you go to command prompt, well, that was quick. It only took 33 seconds. It's still bringing up the server. It's not quite up. If you go to IP config, battle eyes successfully started. Looks like it's running. Server imperator has successfully started. So that's what you should see. Okay, so the server is running right now. Full startup, 68 seconds. Running on 8 cores, and then this is what we typed in. I called the server imperator, query port. Okay, so if you type in on command prompt ipconfig, you can see what your you can see your router here. The router is 192.168.1.1. So if I type that into a browser, now I haven't. So now I'm in my router. This is what the router looks like for the Netgear Genie. Yours might be different. You might have to type in something different. You might have to Google on how to get into there. But for my router, if you go to advanced setup, port forwarding, port triggering, I have a range here, 27015 to 27016, and then I also have the 7777 opened up, and I can edit the service. But as you notice, in command prompt, my computer is 192.168.1.12, and that's where I'm running the server, so that's what I want to have as my internal IP address, and these are the ports that are open, and then you should be able to connect, and other people will be able to connect to you if you do it like this. Okay, so if you port forwarded correctly and you got this coming up, it hasn't failed. So now you want to, maybe change a couple things on your server. There is a couple ways to do that. You can look up tutorials. I made a few alterations because I wanted a higher resource gathering. And taming too. I don't want to sit there for 2 hours to tame one thing. I have too much ADD to do that. There we go. Default game user settings. And what I was going to do is I generated this one online, and I was going to replace them, but I decided just to leave it like this. It's less in depth, but my server is looking at this. So I have like an XP multiplier of 3, taming speed is 4. So like things tame a lot faster. I cut down like the food drain, water drain, stuff like that. You can just customize your server how you want, if you're not happy with like the vanilla stuff. So anyways, that's how to set up a server. It's not super complicated, but if you've never done it, it can be difficult. There you go.